And former Deputy President Gashagua says he supports Washington's probe of Kenya's non-NATO ally status. Speaking during a media roundtable engagement in the United States of America tour in Kansas, the DCP party leader says there is legitimate need for America to investigate cases of police brutality, abductions, torture, murder and extrajudicial killings under the Kenya Kwanza regime, as well as President William Ruto's association with blacklisted organizations by America in the region. Seth Olale has the details of that report.
In the affirmative.
The move by the United States Congress to consider reviewing Kenya's designation as a major non-NATO ally has drawn support from ousted former Deputy President Gashagua. Speaking during a media roundtable engagement in his United States of America tour in Kansas, Gashagua said the move was long overdue.
And I'm very excited that yesterday, in the Senate, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee tabled a motion for the American legislative arm to review the status of Kenya as a non-NATO ally because of violation of human rights, because of abductions, extrajudicial killings.
The Democracy for the Citizens Party leader is urging Kenyans living in the U.S. to avail to the U.S. Congress sufficient grounds for U.S. review of Kenya's designation as a major non-NATO ally.
I want to appeal to the people of Kenya living here and working here in the United States to take time to lobby their senators and their congressmen so that they can know exactly what is happening in Kenya, so that when this particular motion comes up for discussion, there is support from the senators here in the United States, because Kenyans here are quite informed as to what is going on back home.
The former DP calling on U.S. President Donald Trump to fill in the vacant U.S. ambassadorial slot in Kenya to monitor alleged injustices being committed by President Ruto's administration.
I want to appeal to the people of Kenya living here and working here in the United States to take time to lobby their senators and their congressmen so that they can know exactly what is happening in Kenya, so that when this particular motion comes up for discussion, there is support from the senators here in the United States, because Kenyans here are quite informed as to what is going on back home.
The former DP, who accused the ruling regime of using the criminal justice system to silence President William Ruto's critics, said if elected Kenya's sixth president, he will establish an inquiry into the Gen Z killings targeting police officers accused of perpetrating abductions and killings of protesters.
Let me tell officers commanding police stations, officers commanding police divisions, all the atrocities against the people of Kenya that are being committed within your jurisdiction, you will have to answer it one day.
The DCP leader, who has been on a month-long tour of the U.S., announcing that his first stop upon returning home will be holding rallies in Kisii, Nyamira, South Nyanza and Bomet.
Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta has in recent days resurfaced in public, prompting political conversations in what appears to be the clearest indication that he will be a key factor in the 2027 general elections. The former president on Tuesday called for a special sitting of the National Delegates Convention of the former ruling party Jubilee to discuss, among other issues, the party's direction in the preparation for the next general election. The move, coupled with several others in the recent past, has put the Jubilee party leader in sharp focus more than 2 years after leaving office, raising speculations as to his increasingly but busy political calendar. Emmanuel Toh has that report.
Despite retiring from the office of president about 3 years ago, former President Uhuru Kenyatta's political shadow continues to loom large, his rare and occasional appearances stoking speculations within the political circles in the country.
Asante sana, asante.
And just a day after holding a crucial national executive meeting of the Jubilee Party at the party headquarters here in Nairobi, the Jubilee Party leader has called for a special national delegates convention later in the month. In a notice issued to all the members, Kenyatta gave a 21 days notice for a special national delegates convention to be held at the Jockey Club, Nairobi. The former head of state highlighting 3 key agendas for the meeting, including receiving status report from the National Executive Committee, reviewing, formulating and approving party policies, and considering and approving any other matters. However, the details of the closed-door NEC meeting, which lasted for about 2 hours Tuesday, where President Kenyatta addressed virtually, have remained scanty, with some of the members who attended the meeting telling Citizen TV that the party also discussed its possible flag bearer in the 2027 general polls, details which are contested with a section of those who attended the meeting. The party has been wooing the former Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i to its corner as a possible candidate. However, the party is said to have floated the idea of backing ODM leader Raila Odinga should he sever ties with President William Ruto. The meeting also came only 4 days after Kenyatta had an encounter with his successor President William Ruto at State House Nairobi on the sidelines of the joint meeting of the East African Community EAC and Southern African Development Community SADC on the DRC peace process. The two leaders who were seen in high spirits were captured exchanging pleasantry, with President Ruto taking his former boss in a house tour of the refurbished State House. President Kenyatta's private office has also seen high-ranking international guests visit, with Kenyatta holding discussions with the British High Commissioner to Kenya, Neil Wigan, just a week ago. The former head of state had also met President Ruto in December last year at his Ishaweri home in Gatondo, Kiambu County, an engagement which was followed by an appointment of some of Kenyatta's close allies to powerful dockets in the Kenya Kwanza government.
President William Ruto and ODM party leader Raila Odinga have formed a 5-member committee to oversee the implementation of the 10-point agenda outlined when they signed a memorandum of understanding 5 months ago and the NATCO report of 2023. The committee will be chaired by a former ODM-nominated Senator Agnes Zani and will include former ODM MP and Yala member Fatuma Ibrahim, lawyer and governance commentator Javas Bigambo, policy analyst in the office of the leader of minority Gabriel Oguda, who is also the ODM party's communication strategist, and UDA-affiliated lawyer Kevin Kiarie. The committee is mandated to carry out extensive consultations to ensure the implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding is informed by diverse perspectives and addresses the needs and the aspirations of all Kenyans. The committee will also commence its work immediately and is expected to submit progress report to President William Ruto and the former Prime Minister every 2 months and report to a joint Kenya Kwanza ODM parliamentary group on quarterly basis. A final comprehensive report detailing the status of the MOU's implementation will be released to the public on March the 7th, 2026, marking the first anniversary of the signing of the MOU.
President William Ruto says Kenya will continue to deepen its ties with China, describing the relationship as being in Kenya's best economic interest. But that position is drawing sharp criticism from Washington, where a powerful Republican senator backed by US President Donald Trump is now pushing to have Kenya stripped of its major non-NATO ally status. Senator Jim Risch of Idaho wants President Ruto investigated not only for his links with China, but also over the deaths of more than 120 protesters and Kenya's alleged associations with Sudan's Rapid Support Forces and Somalia's Al-Shabaab. NTV's Catherine Omwanzo begins our bulletin tonight.
In June 2024, Kenya became the first sub-Saharan African country to be granted major non-NATO ally status under Section 517 of the U.S. Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. But this could change. A Republican Senator, Jim Risch, also the chairman of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, is leading efforts to force a full review of Kenya's relationship with Washington, D.C. Earlier in May, Risch had raised concerns about President William Ruto's close ties with Beijing, flagging a statement Ruto made while in Beijing that Kenya and China are co-architects of a new world order. The US senator feels that Kenya's ties with China could hurt American interests. However, President William Ruto says that Kenya's friendship with China remains intact.
They have agreed to a reciprocal arrangement between Kenya and China. They have agreed to remove all the tariffs on our tea, on our coffee, on our avocado, and all other agricultural exports. It's partly why I have a bit of a problem with some of our friends, but it is what I must do for Kenya. You know, it's in the best interest of Kenya that we get into this market.
Some decisions you see nation states making outside there are because that country has weighed the cost-benefit, has done a cost-benefit analysis, and weighed that what you're calling the bad option is actually the best option in the optics and in the eyes of the state.
Risch is pushing for investigations into President William Ruto's administration over the killings of at least 128 protesters during anti-government demonstrations, mostly by police bullets. He accuses the Kenyan state of engaging in extrajudicial killings, abductions, and torture. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gashagua, who is currently in the United States, says that this is an opportunity to hold the Kenya Kwanza administration to account.
I want to appeal to the people of Kenya living here and working here in the United States to take time to lobby their senators and their congressmen so that they can know exactly what is happening in Kenya, so that when this particular motion comes up for discussion, there is support from the senators here in the United States.
The question Senator Jim Risch is asking is if U.S. military aid may have been used to enable these human rights violations. Welcome. The investigations would also look into President William Ruto's links with Sudan's Rapid Support Forces. Its leader, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, or Hemedi, is blacklisted by the American government.
And that's why sometimes some people in diplomacy become pariahs. Nobody wants to touch them. For the simple reason, associating with you, they are crimes of association. So Kenya is suffering in part because of that crime of association. You are associating with an individual who the world deems as not a good global citizen.
If the proposals are approved, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be compelled to begin a review and investigations within 90 days and submit a report to Congress within 180 days of the amendments of the U.S. National Defense Authorization Act for 2026.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki now says the government is ready to engage and listen to issues raised by the country's youthful populace. The DP, who spoke at the Pwani University in Kilifi County as he opened this year's National Youth Week, emphasized that the government is committed in putting their input into action in what he says is Kenya Kwanza's goodwill to secure their future. Kama Mwangi has that report.
After months of push and pull between the country's youthful generation and President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza administration, the government seems to be courting the youth, signaling the start of the proposed intergenerational dialogue by ODM leader Raila Odinga. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, who launched this year's National Youth Week at the Pwani University in Kilifi County on Wednesday, said the conversations will bow down the hard issues the youth have been raising.
You're going to hear very soon. We will start having those conversations on the hard issues of accountability, hard issues on the fight against graft and stealing of public funds, the hard issues about how those in authority treat citizens and how security agencies engage with the people.
The move, seen by critics as last-minute efforts to repair the already frosty relations between the ruling class and its youthful constituency, will center on providing a platform for the youth to be integral in shaping the future they want.
We do not see young people as a burden or as a crisis. Young people are a resource, an opportunity, and an investment for Kenya and for our country now and tomorrow.
And following the destruction of property witnessed in the June and July demos, the country's second in command was quick to call them to order, asking them to come to the table willing to listen as well.
But in the process, we'll also have a very difficult conversation on how the exercise of rights must not injure the national good and hurt innocent people who have nothing to do with what you are aggrieved about.
Where the Kenyan people have reached with William Ruto, even if he built gold roads to everybody's single home, to every home, he builds gold roads, gold paved roads, you will not reclaim that lost ground. It's gone. That ground has gone. It will never go back to William Ruto. No amount of child donations will change the public perception. William Ruto is trying to fool God. He cannot fool God. God is omnipresent and he can see through this. And he knows his intention even before. It will not work. That is why you saw Kenyans coming out of their numbers to go and demonstrate at that church in Louisiana. And it's because of his handling of the economic situation of the nation.
To those who believe politics doesn't affect them, I hope today has taught you how politics affect you directly.
Ruto simpigi kura. Amenajisi nchi. Bila kutumia hata kondom.
This is Selector Dede.
Wanadhani asi bongo lala, ikikupita we bongo lala, na walosema jana iwezi fika leo, tuko ground tunasonga. Hatujikuku mewaka sana, na mabisto na chafua raja, na walosema jana iwezi fika leo, tuko ground tunasonga. Hakuna mboka, peleke shuleni watasoma, madaktari wamegoma, hapa sani Yesu atatuponya. Wambie punde imechoka sana, farasi bado ijapatikana, ni mandai wanagonya na mali wanaponda, unakonda wananona. Mandamano, 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 amise mandamano, mandamano, mandamano.